This episode of Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com.
And by Ting.com. Head over to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device.
Welcome to Linux Action Show Season 31, Episode 2. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Hey, Matt. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Are you ready for me to tell everyone about the big show today?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, Jess Reuterberg is going to be joining us. Now, he's one of the gurus behind the new KDE Design Group, who's trying to move the KDE design language forward for the next generation of the KDE Plasma desktop.
Nice.
He's going to come on here. We're going to pick his brain about what they have in mind, how they're going to try to accomplish their goal, and overall some of the questions that were submitted by our subreddit, too. We got like 40 really great questions.
Oh, great.
So we'll get through as many of them as we can. Of course, in the news segment, we're going to wrap up from Mobile World Congress. All of the major mobile Linux operating systems had some big news this last week. We'll talk about that. Plus, there's a new huge game that just hit Linux. And Microsoft is making some very interesting competitive moves against Linux with Windows 8.1.
It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, so we'll discuss that. And then in the feedback segment, we're going to talk about how to get your Fitbit beep, 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 working under Linux. Because right now, Fitbit only has a Mac and Windows client available.
Right?
Yeah. So we'll talk about how there's some ways you can make your Linux box sync with your Fitbit. But first, Matt, it is our picks.
Woo!
And we start with the Runs Linux this week. One of the things that we introduced with Linux Action Show 300 2 episodes ago was we brought on two producers to help us with guests and other needs for Linux Action Show and Linux Unplugged. Michael T, or a.k.a. Rotten Corpse, a lot of you know him, is in the chat room, and JT, or Q5Sys, as a lot of you know him is in the subreddit as Q5Sys. Those two joined us as producers. And I thought, well, maybe one nice way to sort of meet Q5Sys, if you didn't catch us in the subreddit this week, is let's start with one of our Linux Action Show producers who, of course, run Linux.
Yes.
And that's Q5Sys. And this is his crazy setup where he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens plugged into a rig with, look at these external cooling right here.
God, that is freak. I'm so envious.
Yeah, so Q5Sys is he's one of the developers on the Puppy Linux project, and he runs this entire thing. He has a drive for some storage, but he knows exactly what's on that hard drive, file by file, and the rest of his entire computing session is Puppy Linux running from RAM.
That is crazy town.
He is nuts. Now, here's a little bit about his specs.
Wow.
He's got a dual hexa-core Xeon E5 2620 with hyperthreading. He's got 56 gigabytes of RAM. He's got an NVIDIA Quattro 4200 that drives 6 22-inch Samsung LED displays. Whew. He has a total of 30 terabytes of storage, a 600 gigabyte SSD for the OS, 4 3-terabyte internal Western Digital hard drives, 2 3-terabyte USB external hard drives. He has an external eSATA enclosure with 4 3-terabyte drives. Of course, he's got a creative X5 titanium sound card. He's got his custom Puppy Linux based on Slackware 64. The entire OS is loaded in a layered read-only file system in RAM at boot and never accesses the hard drive unless I force a save of my system state, he says. He says the window manager, of course, is open box because when it gets to that many screens, he's had some problems. He's got 3 instances of LX panel running for system tray, task manager, and a launcher tray.
That is crazy town. And a lot of people are saying, well, I thought, Puppy Linux was light. It is. I mean,
he's running in 56 gigs of RAM.
Exactly. I mean, he's got it contained the way he wants so that he can dedicate his resources.
I think this is a water cooler right here.
It's a water cooler sitting on this. I've actually done
with the CD-ROM drive sitting on top of it.
I've actually used that exact same box for about the same purpose, actually.
Yeah, you can see here it is going into the Xeons. He's got
oh, my God, that's great.
And then look at all the DVI connectors.
I know, right?
Q5Sys is a machine, I'm telling you.
That is, I'm quite envious.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it on. Like what's it look like right now when he's watching LAS?
He's got some classic stuff up above it, too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that's like a super old Apple one, they're thinking. This is like a compact one? Or
yeah, it could be compact.
And I know he also has a fleet of Raspberry Pis in there, too. Yeah. Speaking of Raspberry Pi, happy second birthday to the Raspberry Pi project. That's exciting. Nice. That was, I think, on Friday. I opened up the live stream with their video. It's like a celebration video. And as a birthday present, kind of, sort of, Broadcom is open sourcing some of the GPU code.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I don't know all the details yet. And I think it's BSD licensed, so I'm not quite sure what the ramifications are with that. But it's a pretty awesome gesture on Broadcom's part. And it also helps tons of mobile, like Android devices that use that same
Right.
chip. So
Definitely. That's awesome.
2.5 million sales of the Raspberry Pi since its launch, thanks to David S. in
Tell
the
you,
chat
you
room.
price it right, they sell themselves.
Yeah. You know, I always like to encourage people to join us live. We have a live chat room. We do the show at 10 a.m. on Pacific, which is like, oh gosh, we have it over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. You can get it in your local time zone if you want, but it works out to be 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UTC, I believe. And if you join us at jblive.tv, you get to hang out. There's probably about 2.5 times more show live.
I would say so.
We've
quite
been going
easily.
since like 9:20 or so.
Yeah.
And it's 10:15
Conversations back and forth, on topic, off topic, silly, serious, the whole package.
So anyways, happy birthday to the Pi Project, and we'd love to have you join us live. We especially, when we have guests that come up, you get to sometimes interact with the guests and stuff like that during the segment breaks and whatnot. All right, Matt, well, before we go on, I want to thank our sponsor this week, and that is GoDaddy.com, and they got something new.
Oh, yeah?
So you've probably seen these new domains that are popping up, and I'll be honest with you, at first I was like kind of Mr. Grumpy Cat. I was like, these new TLDs,
Do we really need this? Yeah.
Yeah, but then I started looking, and there's like .guru.
Oh,
right?
I got to get me one of those.
Or .estate, maybe if you're a real estate agent, or .photography if you want to share your photography. So here's what I was thinking. If you want to grab one of these new .gurus, use the promo code GO15OFF2. Go15OFF2 will get you 15% off of a .guru or a .photography. And here's the other thing. Now, I think you'd have to do these as separate shopping sessions.
Sure.
So don't tell GoDaddy I told you this. Don't.
Okay.
But they also have a brand new system. So if you go register one of these new domains and you get a site set up and then you kind of want to help your discovery, if you use the promo code FOUND2, that's going to take 10% off their new discovery tool where they will submit your business information to like Facebook, Google, Yelp, and all of those sites to attract new customers. And so it's just promo code FOUND2, and that helps sort of juice the search index a little bit. So if you go get like one of these new domains, use the promo code GO15OFF2. That's going to take you 15% off. GO15OFF2 for like a .guru or a .com.
Right.
I mean, it works for anything new. It literally, I mean, it could be hosting too. It's anything new. But I think with .guru available, I kind of want that.
You kind of do, right?
Yeah, like Fisher.guru or whatever, right? And so that's Go15OFF2 to get the 15% off there. And then if you do a separate shopping session, or just if you just want to try out their new tool, maybe you already have an existing site and you're not getting the search results you want, try out Found2, and that'll take that 10% off their new GoDaddy finding tool that helps you get found.
Super easy to remember.
Yep.
To try that.
If you get a .guru or .photography, one of these new TLDs or .photography.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. Yeah, what would you use that? Like thinking of that new How To Linux show, a .guru domain could be pretty useful. So thank you to GoDaddy for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Good stuff.
All right, now it's time for our app picks, and I want to start with the secure messaging scene is blowing up. There's lots of Android options like Secure Text and Telegraph and some other ones that are out there that we're going to be talking about in the future. But I really wanted to talk about one this week that offers some mobile options and offers desktop options, because I prefer to chat from my desktop.
Right.
I prefer to be secure, and I also would like for it to be open source. So this week, I want to talk about Tox, T-O-X. You might have seen this floating around. It's been around the web for about 7-8 months now. It actually started from a group from 4chan, I believe. I don't remember the specifics on that, but one of the reasons I want you to check out Tox is because it bills itself as a full-fledged Skype replacement. It's supposedly going to offer video, audio chat. It already has text chat today. It is open source, which is super cool, and it is available for Linux and, of course, Windows and the Mac. And
I wonder if it does video conferencing, because that's the one thing I keep kicking myself
not
over.
Totally yet,
but it's coming.
But they're working on it. They want it to be a free and open source Skype replacement completely. But here's what's interesting: is it uses a peer-to-peer architecture, which Skype used to use, but then was consolidated. And I'll show you a little example of it. So there's two clients I've installed on my machine here. This first one is called Venom, and this is a GTK-based one. And the way it defines contacts is like you would have an ID, a Tox ID.
So it wouldn't be a name; it would literally be like a Tox ID. Okay.
I don't have any friends yet because I don't know anybody on Tox. Okay. But the idea would be then I search, and it uses essentially like the same thing that a torrent tracker, a DHT discovery protocol, where it goes out and essentially checks with a bunch of peer-to-peer systems to find somebody on the network.
Oh, wow.
So you don't really have to know much more than that. You just have to be able to communicate with the network. And then there's also a QT version, which is right here on this other machine. So on this other window. So I've got both the GTK and QT versions right now.
They both look pretty full-featured.
Yeah, it's for text. No voice yet in either one of them, and I think that might be a limitation right now with where the Tox project is.
But
at.
I think the featuring is just in the security. I think that's really, even the other stuff's yet to come. I think that's
right. They're starting there, which is definitely the right place to start. I completely agree. And they just hit a milestone on, I think, Thursday or Friday. They announced that they're now doing nightly binaries for Windows, OS 10, and Linux. And you can grab the nightly binaries and try them out on your machine. So development is actually progressing pretty quickly. And I'll have links to Venom in the show notes if you want to try out the GTK one. And if all goes according to plan, one of the developers of the Talks project will be joining us on Linux Unplugged to answer some of the questions I have about security and things like that. So if you can join us for Linux Unplugged, we have an open Mumble room where the guest will be joining us, and you can ask your questions to the Talks project and see where they're at. And then we're going to be looking at some of the other secure messengers, too. Like there's a new Tor chat instant messaging client that was just announced this last week, too. So a lot is happening in that space. And I'm following it with a lot of interest because, you guys know me. I'm fairly security conscious. Yeah. Even if I'm not doing anything, I just prefer to always be secure by default.
That's right.
All right. So that's Talks, TOX. Links in the show notes. Go check it out. Now, I got to make good for my weekly spotlight. I meant to give this project a little attention back in January. I even had it. I had to check with Majo, who's the keeper of our app pick lists, because I had it down as we covered it.
No.
It's right up my alley. I'm like, well, so we...
You're thinking it's already in my wheelhouse. I clearly did this.
Checking the list, right? I'm checking the site. I totally missed it, and so now I'm doing a make good. It's in alpha right now. You can get the alpha for free. It's called Wings of St. Nazareth, and it is it's a Wing Commander and X-Wing inspired video game, and it's available for all of your favorite platforms, and it's only one level right now, I think, but their Twitter feed, they're updating people on where they're at all the time.
Cool.
And they've been getting like more and more stuff done. It's got a little bit of a retro look to it. I'm going to show it to you right here. And with the alpha right now, you just get in and you start playing. I think probably would be a little bit better played with a joystick. I'm going to attempt to play it with the mouse and keyboard.
Okay.
And I'll show you why it kind of throws me off here. But so here we go. You can see it's kind of got a bit of a retro look to it.
Yeah.
And again, this is Wings of St. Nazareth.
And I like the music. It really fits.
You see, where it throws me off here is these controls where they kind of have stuff mixed in with the WASD area that I usually normally use WASD for like moving around. Right. But in this case, there's not only movement, but it's also weapon targeting, and it all makes sense. But it's really hard for my brain. You
gotta map those keys in your head.
So here, I'll play it. So you check out the launch. It's really cool. I know it got a Wing Commander feel to it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, like I said, it's retro-y, but not too retro.
Yeah.
It's the right amount of retro.
And all the stuff in the cockpit, like, is all accurate stuff you can look at, like weapon status, energy statuses and stuff, so it's all legit readouts.
Oh, imagine playing this on, that monitor setup you're showing us earlier.
Oh, yeah, Q5's monitor, yeah. So it takes you right into the action. Whoa, he's too fast. So if I whip around, I can find him again. Oh, I see, I'm losing it, man. I'm losing it with the mouse. If you keep the target lock right if you keep the mouse right in the target lock, you'll get pretty good performance. Okay. So they got shields. You got a bunch of different weapons options, so I can toggle to different weapons. There's missiles you can choose from.
I'm just in the rose right now. It's like, oh my god, that's awesome.
I'm getting him, man. I'm gonna get him. No, maybe. He's burning. He's burning a little bit.
Crash and burn.
I'm gonna try switching weapons and see if I get a different result.
He's trying to get away from you.
Yeah, that's a little slower.
Yeah.
Well, you get the idea. You get the idea. I might not even.
He's totally bailing.
For all I know, that might not even be a bad guy. I can't keep it straight.
He's like, why are you shooting me?
This is a total joystick game.
Oh yeah.
And
could you make do with a gamepad?
I don't even know if it supports the gamepad.
Oh really?
And then you quick jump, escape, and you jump right out.
No, that's easy.
Yeah.
What are the minimum requirements on that? Do you have any idea?
Let me check.
Or recommended?
That's a good question. I should always try to check that. I'm not very good at checking that because I always just assume it's going to work.
You got a system that'll run anything. But yeah, because a lot of people are kind of like, they may have a good setup and then the video card's like their big letdown.
I know they have a new engine. Let's see here. Do they say on their FAQ? Here's how much it'll cost. We're developing Wings to be a free game, but we can't rule out changes in the business model in the future. They are considering crowdfunding. Can I use my joystick? Yes, absolutely. I don't see anything about it's a Unity game, though.
So, yeah, I'm pretty sure if you probably turned everything way down, I'm sure it'd probably be all right.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that the graphics aren't super high-end, I mean, they're good.
It's not like first-person shooter to where it's like, enjoy the lag.
They're good graphics, but they're intentionally retro graphics.
Right. That might help. That might help.
All right, Matt. Well, before we run to the news, I just wanted to mention the Linux Action Show episode 300 hoodie, the one like I have right now.
Yeesh. I got the previous gen.
You got the JB one, and you at home have the blue hoodie. I do. And we also added a long sleeve tee and a regular t-shirts have been there for the whole time. And we also have a ladies tee and something too. Like look what I got right here in person. I got the Linux Action Show challenge coin that'll be shipping with every single t-shirt. We might. So we're at 929 right now. we might cut it off around 1,000, 1,500 because then we have to buy another batch of coins. And
Oh,
essentially
right,
we'll lose
right.
all
Exactly.
profit, and we're trying to fund the renovations to the studio. But every shirt order comes with a challenge coin. The back will have the Jupiter Broadcasting logo on it, and the front has the Linux Action Show logo on it, which is super cool.
You know what I'm really liking about the sweatshirt is it actually washes well. A lot of stuff that I have screen printing and stuff like that, it starts peeling off.
Oh,
like
yeah.
after the third wash.
So
I've washed it like 5 or 6 times. It's been fine.
No, every time we do a shirt, we learn, and we always come up with what to do better. And Teespring has been awesome working with us, and this shirt will be the highest quality print and shirt material we've ever done. Everything is super high quality. The coin is super high quality.
I was
really
impressed.
Excited. It's got some weight to it too, Matt. You hear?
Holy crap!
Yeah, it's got some weight. Put a thud on that table. So
Nice.
We'll probably have a few extra coins at Linux Fest Northwest if you don't get a chance to get a shirt.
Maybe
But
do a drawing.
I encourage you to do it now because we'll be using that funding very soon to help on the renovations to the studio, which is coming online very soon. So you can find that over at teespring.com/last300 for a couple of more days. Probably
Very cool.
We're at 929, and if we get around 1,400 or so, I think we're going to have to shut it down.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
But we reached our goal, so thank you everyone who grabbed one already. You guys are awesome.
That is so true.
Yeah.
You guys
All right,
make it
Matt,
happen.
I think we're all done with the picks. Let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Last.ting.com is where people need to go to get started. What is Ting? Well, Ting is my mobile service provider. My friends, has been my mobile service provider for over a year. And Matt, what are you coming on, like 9 months?
I think about 9 months now, yeah.
Yeah. I tell you, I got the Nexus 5. Matt has the Note 2, and Ting is fantastic. You busting the thing?
Bam!
That boom. Yeah, the Note 2 is great.
Very good phone.
For nav. It's so awesome. So if you go to last.ting.com, that tells Ting that you appreciate them supporting the show. And you can also check out their savings calculator over there because the way Ting does business is different than other cell phone companies. No contract, and you only pay for what you use. It's a flat $6 a month. This is about as simple as it's going to get. $6 a month, and you just pay for your usage. So go over to last.ting.com. If you've been considering this but haven't pulled the trigger yet, click that how much would you save savings calculator. Now, I'm going to put in my average about 420 minutes a month, about 200 text messages because I get copied to my texts and stuff. Even though I try to use Google Voice, I get like CC'd to my, and I'm always at least, actually it's probably more, about 400, 500 megabytes,
Maybe
sometimes 600 megabytes. I'll bump that up to 500
just
megabytes.
for giggles.
So before, with like a big red cell phone provider, $125 a month for my line, right?
Right.
If I go over to last.ting.com, I plug all that into their savings calculator. Comes out, I would save $2,232 in 2 years by switching to Ting. Yeah.
You just think of all the stuff you could do with that money, right?
It's an average savings of $93 a month. And it's exactly, see how my average bill is $32? It's almost exactly what my average bill is. Yeah. So I'm saving $93 a month by switching to Ting. And the other great thing about Ting is, like, I have also had cell phone plans where, well, if you're a business customer, you need to have the business data package because there's a difference.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you've got to have the exchange support. And if you want tethering, you've got to be a part of a special data membership for that, like a special account setting. All of that stuff is just included with Ting. Your data, your text messaging, your hotspot, your tethering, every Ting plan comes with that. Ting has a bunch of great devices too. I'm always checking out because they're always updating it. They've always got new deals over here. Oh, yeah. And one of the things that's neat too is if you've got a device, Ting, if you visit last.ting.com and you've already got a device compatible with the Ting network, well, they'll just give you a $25 credit on your Ting bill, which, for me, that paid for my first month. Right? Yeah. Oh, they got the HTC One Red again. Oh, man.
Do they? That thing's been calling you like a sign.
It has. I love the HTC One. And they've also got some great used devices, too, you can pick up, like the refurbished Sanyo 3810 Black. $52 to get this phone off contract. You just pay for what you use, and if you don't need the features of a smartphone, or if you have a tablet you prefer to use anyways, why not get something with fantastic battery life? $52 when you go to last.ting.com with no contract.
You gotta love that. Maybe you want just a backup phone for emergencies, or just something you can throw in a drawer and not worry about.
The other thing too is you can get $6 hotspots with Ting, because Ting also sells the MiFi type devices. If you go to their devices page right here, they've got the Novatel MiFi. For $130 out of the door, $130, and it's a MiFi device that is just $6 a month when you don't need it, and when you do need it, you just pay for what you use.
And if you're someone that goes to a lot of conventions or events, you don't necessarily want to depend on their Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and if you just get stuck somewhere for a while and you need some data access, this thing's great because it's tri-band LTE, so you're going to get blazing good performance. It's got that LED screen on the front, so you get your signal status, your battery indicator.
That's good.
Yeah,
and you're not draining your phone.
$130, and you've got you got a $6 hotspot.
I love that.
Just get started by going to last.ting.com, try that savings calculator, and see what I've been talking about. And, oh, by the way, they've got no-hold customer support, too, if you ever have any troubles. So thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
I love those guys.
Yeah, it's seriously a great service. Super happy with it. So let's start with, we'll get to the Mobile World Congress stuff, but really quick, just a moment for the Linux community. Portal 2, the beta, has been released for Linux. This is the beta, and Valve is tracking issues with the beta on their public GitHub page, so you can find issues listed over there. It's pretty nice of them to actually post that up there.
That's great.
And you do need to go into Steam and turn on the beta mode for that game to get it to play. And then I played Portal 2 for like an hour. It was
I
great.
love that, right?
It's like amazing.
Yes.
It's a great game. Portal 2 is a great game. Portal 1 is a great game too. The cake, well, I'm not going to tell you about the cake, but the game is not a lie.
And I was able to get it working on a low-end graphics card. I had to turn some stuff down, but it was quite playable.
Good.
It's a good time, actually.
That's
a good time.
All right, so let's shift gears to Mobile World Congress. Let's start with Ubuntu Touch, which has fared pretty well in the news headlines. Tom's Hardware even gave Ubuntu Touch the Best of Mobile World Congress award. Overall, they said the experience was a lot smoother than previous Ubuntu Touch releases, and the operating system itself was a pleasure to use, both intuitive and visually appealing.
Wow.
They tried it out on some hardware and were quite impressed. And also, the same sentiment came out of Wired.co.uk. They got their hands on the MX3, the device we sort of speculated last week. Mike, looks like it is going to be the Ubuntu device. They got their hands on the MX3. They liked it quite a bit. Here's the deets. 5.1-inch touchscreen. Provisional specs include that octa-core chip with a 3-core graphics processor and 2 gigabytes of memory. It should be available in 16, 32, and 64 gigabyte versions with a 2400 milliamp battery. No specs for the BQ Aquarius yet. But one of the things that Wire.co.uk noted, again, now Tom's Hardware said it was a pleasure to use, so did Wire.co.uk, and they said the nice thing is this MX3 has an edge-to-edge glass screen, and so it makes working with the gestures really nice.
I like that.
They say it's a really good fit. So Wire.co.uk asked Canonical CEO, like, what's the deets? What's the ship dates? When are we going to be able to put our hands on this? She kind of had an interesting response to that. She told Wired that the marketing strategy for the phones, when they officially launch, will be a global online campaign. And she says it's going to be a relatively soft launch. She added that they will first be giving Ubuntu fans an opportunity to get their hands on the device, and it should be available worldwide.
Interesting. That's good. I mean, I like the fact that it's not going to be centralized to one location when they do the soft launch. You can actually get in there
And this will be big for the MX and the BQ Aquarius because both of them haven't, as far as I know, don't sell devices in the U.S. So the BQ looks good and the MX3 looks good. I think I have hats off to Canonical. I think they did pick a couple of great partners. The hardware looks really good.
I'm impressed, and I'm excited to see where they go with this. I really wasn't sure how this was going to pan out, but it looks like they really nailed it.
And I'll tell you too, like I look at these phones, like especially the MX3 is the one I kind of have my eyes on. And the thing when I first saw them was these are great phones, except they run Android. And I don't know where that came from because I'm not a big Android hater. Like I really like my Nexus 5.
I think you've been stung a couple times.
And then when you say like now you have this great hardware package and we have a pretty interesting operating system you can try out, and I'm getting kind of excited about that. Yeah. So good. Congrats to them and congrats on the Best of award from Tom's Hardware. Now you might have saw the headlines too that Firefox was showing off a $25 Firefox phone. 25 bones to get this phone,
this is the kind of thing to where it's like I can finally get my mom on a smartphone. I mean, I'm excited about this.
Yeah, really,
like,
right?
Boom, there it is.
Yeah, and so this is an article over at Linux.com, and I'll play a little bit of the video for you so you can kind of see what they had to say.
Hello, I'm Joe Chang. I'm the program manager from Mozilla. So this phone that you're looking at is the $25 smartphone that we have announced a couple of days ago at our Mozilla press event. So let me give you a quick overview of this device. So this device is powered by 1 gigahertz CPU single-core Spectrum chipset. And the screen size is 3.5 inch, and the resolution is half VGA. So the key thing about this device is that it is only powered by 128 megabyte of RAM, so which is only 1/2 or 1/4 of the existing entry-level devices that we're seeing on the market.
Yeah, in fact, Firefox engineers had to do some special work to get the system down with only 128 megabytes of RAM, because that's only 25 to 50% of the RAM found in the existing entry-level devices on the market. They have a great booth, too. They have a really good-looking booth. The article at Linux.com notes that the OS feels a little sluggish, as you might expect.
Oh, that's understandable for the price point, I mean, quite honestly.
It really is. I mean, this is not for people who want a really high-end smartphone. This is, like you're saying, for people who've so far been dragging their feet, or folks that live in a part of the world where they really the financial situation is totally different than it is in, say, like the U.S.
Sure.
And $25 is probably about as much as they can afford to spend.
That's right. You know.
So, and you know, they're getting really good coverage on this too.
Well, I think just that price point. If they can stick to that price point, this becomes the Raspberry Pi of smartphones. It really does.
Yeah.
Quite
I mean,
literally.
gigahertz CPU and 128 megabytes of RAM. It almost sounds like a Raspberry Pi.
You can watch videos, you can check email, you can browse stuff. Hey, I'm down.
Yeah, and there's some apps that you're going to be able to get, and I think that's not
bad for the price, man.
Yeah,
I'd get one for just the hell.
It's not pitched to me, right? And you, but it's a great device.
But I would totally show it off when the next person says, "I can't afford a smartphone." Be like, "Bam, you can check it out." You know, it's great.
All right. Well, if people are done with the mobile news, why don't we shift gears and talk a little about Scale 12? Just wrapped up. You guys remember Scale is the Southern California Linux Expo in Los Angeles. This is the 12th annual one. And Harvard Law professor Lawrence Lessig delivered the opening keynote, and he challenged the free software community to do something it does not normally attempt: engage with the political system. Lessig is perhaps best known for a public advocate for reform in the U.S. government patent system and copyright system, of course. As he explained to the Scale crowd, those affected by public policy areas include some key technology issues, and Lessig's own commitment to the cause he credits directly to his friendship with Aaron Swartz. It's interesting, too, because Scale obviously is not usually a political crowd.
Not usually.
And so it was a bit unusual for Scale. But the crowd responded with enthusiasm, according to linuxweekly.net, when he had stories of technology policy, and he'd made an analogy of zeroing in on flaws in software, like software bugs, as the same as zeroing in on flaws in government and trying to address them like developers address software bugs. So he's there at Scale saying, "Hey guys, maybe it's time to engage a little bit in the political system." We'll see if that continues on.
No, and he's the man to kind of push that forward. I think, he has a great following. I think people should listen. Yeah, when he speaks, people listen. And I took note of it. So. Yeah. And it was an interesting choice for the Scale people, too. I wonder if they knew what he was going to be talking about and if they were sort of like, I'll bet he surprised them a little bit with it. No, that's cool, though. That's cool.
Yeah. Samsung had a big Galaxy S5 unveiling, full orchestra and everything. And they talked a little bit about their Galaxy Gear watches. But one of the stories that didn't quite gain a lot of traction, but Mobile World Congress kind of bumped it along, was Samsung is swapping out on their smart devices. They're swapping Android out, and they're putting Tizen on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're installing Tizen on also the new Samsung Galaxy watches that they noticed. So when everybody kind of thought, when recently Samsung just had a deal they announced with Google, like a 10-year patent deal to collaborate, and everybody thought, okay, and Samsung, we're going to dial down all the bloatware on our devices.
Allegedly.
And everybody thought, oh, what's this mean for Tizen, right? Because Samsung's a big contributor there, and now are they going to not be as interested? Well, Samsung unveiled 3 Tizen smartwatches. Set to ship in April with pricing unknown. The Gear 2, the Gear 2 Neo, and the Gear Fit will all ship with 100 Tizen apps.
That'd be kind of fun. I think it'd be fun to play with one of those. It'd be interesting to see what you could do with it. Both devices offer the same 1.63-inch 320 by 320 pixel Super AMOLED display, but they have a 1 gigahertz processor in a phone. It's a dual core. That's pretty impressive. 512 megs of RAM and 4 gigabytes of flash. There'll also be Bluetooth 4.0, and I think 1 or 2 of them have a 720p camera built in as well. Considering people used to use these to tell time with, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, then here's the Fit, which I think looks really great. I like that better, actually. And this is also running Tizen, but it'll be a little bit more scaled down Tizen with a subset of the available apps, and it lacks a camera. And I bet it's going to be very centralized around various active activities, outside jogging, things like that. I bet there'll be lots of that. So. But it's interesting to see Tizen, and one of the Samsung reps was asked, like, why did you switch from Android to Tizen? Like, is there a problem there? And what they just simply said is, with our first generation of the Gear watches, we tried to whittle Android down to as little, of a footprint as possible, and we still didn't get the performance we want. But with Tizen, we're starting with a much smaller, leaner core, and we're able to get a lot more performance on these smaller devices. That's it. And if you got something that's already going to do the job, that's going to use less resources, why not just use that? I think that's what they're doing in this case. Mike Tyson, yeah. Mike Tyson. Tizen. So why don't we talk also a little bit about Microsoft? They made some waves this week when at first they rumored, well, you know what, we're thinking about cutting our licensing sales to OEMs by about 70%, which is a massive cut. Yeah, it is. So
This is Windows 8.1 we're talking about.
Okay.
Manufacturers will be charged $15 to license Windows 8.1 instead of the $50 they used to get charged, and a device selling in retail will be less than $250. Now, there's also a rumor that's floating that Microsoft is experimenting with just making a free version of Windows 8.1 altogether. So, it'll be available for download.
That's adorable. They're trying to compete with Chrome OS. I see.
That's probably what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's like I bet you money. That's literally they're going to shove you to the App Store. If you want anything, it's available here, and it'll be limited, of course.
Yeah,
like starter edition type stuff.
That's interesting because I've also been getting the sense, based on Microsoft advertising and the way they're positioning Windows 8.1 tablets, that Chrome OS is scaring the hell out of them.
Oh yeah, of course it is. I mean, Amazon. What's the top selling notebook? There it is.
It's Chromebook.
Yeah.
And next week on the show, I'm going to be reviewing the Chromebook S31e running Linux to give you guys an idea. If you can buy like a $200 Chromebook and load Linux on there, is it actually usable? And do you lose like a ton of battery and all that? We're going to talk about that next week. And I think you just nailed it. I was thinking this was more of an affront on Linux itself, but I think it's more nuanced than that. Like you're saying, I think it's more targeted directly at Chrome OS.
Yeah, Microsoft's not real good at big picture in the consumer space, so I suspect that
they're just seeing a trend and trying to respond to it.
Right, and that's usually how they do things. They generally play it safe. They let someone else bleed the edge, and then they follow along.
Yeah,
trailing along after them like a lost dog trying to catch up.
So here's how they're gonna position it. Are you ready for this? This is according to The Verge. They're gonna call it Windows 8.1 with Bing as a free or low-cost upgrade to Windows 7 users. Any upgrade offers will be focused on boosting the number of people using 8.1. This Bing-powered version of 8.1 may also be offered to PC makers as part of a recent license price cut. So yeah, like netbook makers. This is Windows 7 Starter Edition, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because I was going to say, if you have like Ultimate, and they're like, hey, by the way, here's a web browser.
Yeah,
I mean, really?
Well,
hopefully they're not going that route, but I don't know.
It's interesting because when I was chatting with the IRC before the show, a lot of people were asking, is this to compete with SteamOS? Is Microsoft worried about people buying SteamOS just to play games? So here, let's give them this free Windows 8. And I don't think so.
No, they're very division-minded. So that would be Xbox. That would be the Xbox problem, honestly. Right. And they'll deal with that however they got to deal with it. No, in this case, it's definitely about the Chromebook. I'm sure. Well,
and won't it be interesting if it adds insult to injury if even the free version of Windows 8.1 doesn't really ship much?
Oh, it won't. I mean, Microsoft doesn't understand is that it doesn't offer something compelling. It's like, okay, you're doing this thing with 8.1. That's great. What is it doing differently than Chromebook? If you actually have something, and Bing is not a feature, by the way. Great, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think
you mean you're not going to buy it because it's got Bing integrated?
Well, my wife has a policy at the house that anytime you say Bing in the house, you get punched in the arm.
Wow,
it's just like she just doesn't like the whole Bing experience.
It is weird.
She's like, no, just plug it. But yeah, so. It isn't really a compelling feature. It's a search engine, yay, whoop-de-doo. Just as Google's a search engine, yay, whoop-de-doo. It's not a feature. If it does something cool, great. I don't think it will. I think it will barely match what Chromebooks do. That's my guess.
Well, and I mean, Microsoft has SkyDrive and all of these services, but Google really has, like, because I was playing with the C720 before I put Linux on there, and it.
Microsoft's got cool features like you too can bust out your credit card and pay for online Office. Really?
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Yeah, it's sketchy, and it shows that they're really kind of they're reaching. But I think the big picture story here is, this is a company that for their entire existence has made their bones on selling licensed software, and now they're desperately trying to figure out a new model that works in the current economy. And it would appear that one of the world's largest software licensors is experimenting with the idea of giving away that which they used to license for a great profit. And that's a big story.
They're trying to, and poorly, I might add, I think they're trying to do kind of a hybrid freemium kind of situation, but I don't think they're really there yet.
Yeah, it's going to be totally neutered, and you're going to, and you're
going to be feeling boned the whole time you're playing with this, going, why am I using this? It makes me want to cry. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe it'll, they say they're targeting Windows 7 users, but maybe they'll pick up some XP switchers that are
Now that might, see, there's the different. That might work for them, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. Better than XP anyway.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, if they could,
that would be what I'd do.
If I'd rather they run Windows 8 free than XP. I'd rather they run Linux.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Chrome OS, even.
The Linux Trojan.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Well, that's all the news for this week. Well, we're about to talk with the project lead for the KDE Design Group. But before we do that, I want to thank our segment sponsor, System76, creators of machines born to run Linux. And I was just enjoying the fact the other day that when my machine boots up, I know that System76 from top to bottom has gone through there with a fine-tooth comb and gotten everything to work just right. And every time I power it up, I'm greeted by that System76 logo. And I'll tell you, it is. Somehow I am going to justify the purchase of an Ultra Pro soon, because the day since we've reviewed these, I have wanted one. System76 has a ton of great machines, including the Ultra Pro, the Bonobo, which I love right now, I game on, and lots of great desktops too. Go over to System76 and get a machine that's designed to run Linux, so that way you don't end up fighting with hardware problems, Wi-Fi adapters, or 3D settings, or anything like that. Stop fighting your hardware, play with your Linux, and tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. So go over to System76.com, and a big thank you to System76 for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. Ooh. All right, so I know I'm going to get it wrong, but Jess, no, I'm sorry. Jans, no, I'm sorry. No, okay, I'm just kidding. So I was earlier saying Jens, but I got that a little wrong, and Reuterberg, and I got that a little wrong. But what I do know, what I do have right, is you are the lead for the KDE Design Group project. So welcome to the show, and pronounce your name for me, just so we have it on record.
Jens Reuterberg.
Well, okay, that's why I would have a hard time with that. Yeah. I understand why you're so okay. You're okay with, like, on the pre-show, he's like, don't worry about it, man. It's okay.
Don't worry about it.
Nice. That's cool.
So, I'm running KDE this week. I've ran KDE for years and years, but I think one of the common complaints lobbied at KDE is the look, the design, whatever you want to call it, the theming, whatever. And it's kind of been building this big reputation and for that. And one of the things I'm excited about you guys setting up an official group about this is maybe beginning to sort of combat some of those preconceptions and sort of setting a new tone. But from a high level, could you kind of just give me an overview of what the goal is for the KDE Design Group?
Well, it's pretty complex, really. The idea is more or less to get the KDE community more and more interested in design, and try to get everyone involved. That's the first big thing that we want to do.
So are you trying to create like a culture of design?
Yeah, like an interest in it and a feeling of being a part of a community. That's the big thing. I mean, the rest, the visual bits, I mean, that's important, but not as important as community anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting more people to participate. That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys have only been going now for what? A month?
A month.
Yeah. But you're already working on all kinds of design elements of it, like icons. And I know you just recently did a blog post, too, kind of describing some of the difficulties of designing icons. When I think of what you guys have to take on, one of the things that's interesting is you're doing it in the context of this is a globally used desktop by millions of people. And so the decisions we make are going to be shipped in distributions everywhere around the world. So, like, for example, you ran into issues when just designing icons for applications. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh, I'd rather not. It was my fault, essentially. That's why I don't want to talk about it. No, but the problem is that several icons are trademarked by large companies.
Yeah.
Small icon themes and icon designers that post their themes, they don't really have to worry about it as much as, say, KDE.
Sure.
Because we're big enough to get sued. That's essentially it.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
My job should have been to actually keep an eye out for those issues so that the designers in the group can actually work and actually do what they're good at. And in this case, sadly, I screwed up.
Well, that seems like, I think you're being a little hard on yourself. I mean, that seems like that's going to...
And you caught it early enough on.
In this process, it seems like that's going to happen.
Yeah, but I don't think I should be nice to myself.
Okay. All right.
It's important to remember.
All right. So one of the things that I've noticed is you guys have stacked the bench with people that have some design experience. You're a designer yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
I'm mostly an illustrator. That's my actual background, illustration work. And then also I've done several jobs as a graphic designer and also done some project lead work earlier. But my main background is an illustrator. So... that's about it, really.
So you're that's
how I earn money.
I mean, you have to have a good eye for design and symmetry to do those kinds of things. So it seems like a pretty good position. And
getting work, so I must have.
And these efforts that you guys are working on, these are not necessarily for the KDE of today, but essentially for the next Plasma desktop release, right?
Yeah, that's our big thing that we're trying to do, and to create a solid sort of vanilla experience for KDE and Plasma. And that's a huge goal, really. And we're trying to do it as sensible and calmly as possible.
Right.
By using a sort of bit-by-bit release.
I see. So I had a series of questions I kind of wanted to float your way about, with the context of looking at, future releases of KDE and bit by bit. But one of the common questions that was sent into the show is this. They said KDE is often viewed as bloated or complicated. How can the design change this and appeal to more people?
Well, first of all, the bloat issue, that's a whole mess of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to stick to the design bit.
Sure.
And essentially, that one of the things that we want to do is simplify things, the interaction with the desktop, and make it more of a solid feel. So that, for example, you could have a good example is the system settings, which is a pet peeve of mine. Because when I came to KDE first, I was sort of scared of the system settings. It seemed like a mass of buttons and levers, and it was weird. And then after a while, when you learn it, you realize that, this is a really, really powerful tool. You can do almost anything within Plasma.
Right.
So we want to keep that ability to change everything, to make it accessible to, I don't want to use power users as a phrase, but let's pretend that's a good phrase. So, but still make it inviting to new users. Have sort of a basic setting for the daily settings, the things that you do daily, and do that good, do that really well. Make sure that it's accessible, it's nice, it's open, and it's so that there's always a path into more advanced settings. Because right now you're being thrown straight into a sort of, I want to call it spaceship settings.
Yeah, it feels like a cockpit. Yeah, I totally understand.
You want to drive a moped and suddenly you're sitting in a spaceship, and that's not a good feeling for anyone.
Yeah.
So we want to clear that one up as well. So, but there's a ton of design issues. I have a list that is about 5 pages long, handwritten on my desk. That sort of
wow.
I don't know. I just kept trying to tick them all one by one.
Now, on that list, is it in the spectrum of your group? Are you going to be addressing the tools to change the look? Because it's sort of a mismatch of tools right now. There's a lot of options, but there's a lot of places to go to change those things. Right. And even learning that layout can be kind of confusing. Is like those kinds of code changes, is that within the sort of purview of the group?
It's within what we want to do. It's still, we're just 1 month old. So right now we're trying to hammer out a good way to actually deal with issues.
Yeah.
We want it to be a sort of resource group for the whole of KDE. But we also, with that community effort, we want to sort of create a system in which a designer can come in, can contribute. And in that whole thing, we're trying to, get feelers out. What do devs want from us?
Right.
What can we actually do?
Right.
But one of the things that we really want to do, and again, what we want to do is fix the things like the system settings and the way that's handled. But right now, it's in the sort of we're just starting out. We're just trying to get a good feel of what we can and cannot do.
So it sounds like a big part of what you're trying to accomplish is you don't want to just have a burst for like a year of a bunch of improvements and then just fade away. You want to create sort of a sustainable design system that keeps with the KDE project henceforth.
Yeah, and one where I can be replaced. Any individual should be able to be replaced within the group. Because right now, the issue with design often in open source is that you have to have sort of one driven person who burns out after about 1 or 2 years. And I don't think that's a good method of handling it.
Right.
So I want to create a group system of it in which any member can be replaced without it damaging the design work. Because right now we're sort of burning through designers one by one and leaving bitter husks behind us. That's not a good way to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good visual though, because I understand what you mean. Yes. It's like people really get passionate and committed for a while, but that can only last for so long.
They burn bright and then they kind of flame out. Yeah.
Are you looking at other desktop environments and operating systems? I think there's a challenge. One of the things people love about KDE is that they can make it look very much like a traditional desktop setup, and that's really popular right now, especially as sort of a recoil from what Windows 8 does and the Metro UI. But it seems like down the road, there could be the possibility of the KDE look and aesthetic, the default one, becoming stale or maybe getting a little old. Is there thoughts and sort of ideas about ways to modernize the sort of the default layout of the Plasma desktop?
There are plenty of ideas concerning that, but essentially what we want to do right now is to, like I said, move really slowly, actually have the community being a part of the changes. I mean, you've read the blog, for example.
Yeah.
And all the mistakes. I've tried to write up mistakes, things that we've done wrong, stuff like that. I want to have that entire process of design in the open.
Right.
As a sort of counter movement to the idea of the lone genius designer sitting alone in a room deciding things. Because, I mean, desktop design is extremely invasive to users because when you use your computer, that's something you use daily. That's part of you. And when someone else changes it, even for the better, that's still an invasive action.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're basically trying to shoot for a very thoughtful, purposeful way of forward. You're actually trying to make sure that rather than rushing into it, everyone that's included has had their thoughts heard and everything's being put forward in a way that everybody feels like they're really part of that process.
I also want to make sure that users feel that they can, if they don't like the ideas that I mean, let's face it, I'm a mustachioed freak in Sweden. So if you don't like what I've done, I want the user to be able to say, oh, this was horrible, I'll change back. And I think that's an important thing.
I worry, though, about the design by committee effect, right? Where if you have too many cooks in the kitchen, how do you avoid that problem?
Yeah, but that's to be quite honest, that's not true. I hate the expression design by committee. It's like the phrase redesigning the wheel. Yeah. Because it really means nothing.
Yeah, because it doesn't apply to every situation.
No, and design by committee is so very it's more difficult. That's the thing. I mean, the reason why Apple's design, for example, went so far because it had one dictator defining everything.
Right.
And then, having talented designers under him who did his bidding. Mm-hmm. And that's easy. That's an easy way to do design. And this, I mean, design by committee or design by 1,000 people.
Or collaboration.
A lot. Collaboration. It's extremely tricky, but it's worth those difficulties. Because if we can do this together, that means that we've done something greater than just a new desktop or, a new design. All design is going to get old at one point. And this way we can do something that actually changes the way we handle it.
Right, yeah, you're creating a consensus in the community through the process.
Yeah, and also get the community in with the visual design goals, the ideals behind it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I mean, it would be like me, for example, with changing desktop. It would be like me breaking into your apartment, changing the all the furniture around.
Right.
The first thing you're going to say is not, "Oh, what a lovely way you rearranged my apartment."
Right.
What the hell have you been doing with my apartment?
Exactly.
Who are you? And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that designer. Design is relevant, yes. It's extremely relevant, but it's not as relevant as community.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line of it.
Okay.
So I noticed, following the blog, you guys have some icon designs you're working on. There's some stuff that, some practical things that are about to come out of this. What areas do you feel like maybe there's some gaps where maybe you would like community to step up, and what's the best ways for them to engage with the design group?
Right now, it's using the public forums on KDE, the KDE forums for the Visual Design Group, and actually, just get our ideas out there. Like, we've had some guys that posted, first of all, there's some developers that posted help they wanted. Like, they want to help with something, and then they posted it, and someone steps up and, I'll try to help. But there's also people who have just giving out ideas. Like, I have this brilliant idea how to solve this one, and this thing, or I have a new icon theme idea and stuff like that. Because even if we don't use it, well, my personal job is to try to make certain that all developers know if someone says, I have a great idea for this application, my job is sort of to make sure that the developer for that application knows that people are talking about it, so that he or she can go in and actually, have some back and forth.
Yeah.
But, I mean, every thread, it's like I said, we're a young group, so and a young forum, so it's not that much right now, but hopefully that will grow, because every thread we read, every member of the Visual Design Group reads the threads and check through every idea that's being posted. And all design work is derivative. So whatever, even if it's not being used, it's still going to get picked up at some point.
Yeah.
And if you want to contact me, for example, or anyone else, just post there or post to me via my email or whatever, because I do reply, and I try to make certain that I reply to everything, even the not so friendly versions of emails.
Well, you actually, I mean, you guys are doing a great job reaching out because, we mentioned the group formation about a month ago on the show, and then pretty soon, we had visitors to our subreddit, and we set up a chat because, this is something I think is a key part of helping community involvement is getting the messaging out there and communicating to users. But I know maybe this isn't what you're trying to go for, but when I think of GNOME, I have a preconception in my mind that it's beautifully designed. Like there's people that are sitting in a room just being super OCD about the curvature of the corner of the menu for like a month. And I think what KDE has sort of lacked that component that gave people that conception of being designed. And I think with you guys establishing this design group, it's going to establish a new narrative around the KDE project that KDE can look good and KDE will look good. And I'm excited. That just to me seems like a really good move forward for the KDE desktop.
Yeah, but it's also, I don't want to, GNOME has done a great job at design. They've actually made an effort because they sort of put it on the map. At first, they really made certain that they talked about design. They made design an issue,
right?
And I think that's what we got to do. And the issue, the thing that I want to make certain at all costs is still there is Plasma's flexibility. A user's ability to change his or her desktop. That's what I really want to keep, and that means that even that some of the changes that people will do to the desktop won't be designy. They won't be something I would personally use.
Yeah.
But I want us all really to applaud anyone who changes their desktop, who cares just a little tiny bit about what it looks like. And the issue with that is that since it's so flexible, we can't make certain to 100% that every user will have a perfectly looking desktop.
Sure.
A desktop that's sort of like all the details are being cared for, because people will move around stuff, people will make new stuff, and that's okay. I think that's a good thing, really. I mean, as long as we all make an effort for it and try to work together, then it's going to be fine.
So my last sort of question I had on my list, it was there's a lot of criticism too about some of the projects we just mentioned, like GNOME, where maybe they've been too focused on touch. But I know that Plasma and Plasma Active, touch is going to be a big part of KDE's future as well. How do you guys look at that, and especially in the context of like a desktop mode and a touch mode? How is that influencing your design thoughts?
Well, as a group, I mean, about around 13 people that are in the central group, we're focusing on a desktop experience. That's essentially it. That's what we're going for, to make a good, modern, a desktop which feels solid and sort of unified. But that being said, that Plasma is so flexible that many of the work that we do will benefit Plasma Active as well. And I mean, the idea with Plasma Active was to be able to meld Plasma into a touch interface, and whatever we do, they will benefit from it as well. So I don't think there's it's not like two different subjects.
I like the fact that you guys have the target on the desktop first, and then everything else kind of comes after that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, especially since we're desktop guys. Well, so Jens, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you? I know you're on Twitter, you're on G+. Do you have a preference? Email? What do you think?
Either way works. Jens Reuterberg, if you can spell it.
I'll have links to your profiles in the show notes too.
Oh, well. Or jens@ohyran.se, which is even more difficult to spell, or just the KDE forums.
Okay.
And either way, I try to, I check through my email, my forums, everything every day. So I will try my very best to reply to everything. Well, I have so far. So.
Before we run, is there anything you wanted to touch on or anything you wanted to relay to the audience?
Yes. We need more designers, more design interested. I think I've said that already, but we need more designers.
Worth it.
More people who are interested in it. Even if you're not good at it, even if you think that, oh, I'm not an artist or designer or something, blah, 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 just make a mock-up, some doodles on a page and post it. If you have an idea, tell people about it and tell us in the forums, because that's the way anything will move forward. The more people we are, the better the end result will be. And that's just try to ignore the idea that there's something called a developer and something called an end user. Ignore that. Consider yourself a developer as well and be a part of it. That's the biggest, most important thing I want to push for.
That's awesome. That's kind of exciting too. You know, let's users that are really passionate about the desktop maybe have a little piece of ownership in that.
That's very cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, well, we do all have, I mean, it's open source. It's not Microsoft.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wish you guys the best of luck with the project. We'll be following closely, and maybe when we get some down the road a little bit, maybe you come back on and talk to us about some of the updates.
I hope so.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much for coming on the Linux Action Show.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But hey, Matt.
Yeah.
I thought before we get out of here, we'd read an email.
All right.
This one came in from Miles this week for the Fitbit for Linux. He says, hey, check out this page on Bitbucket. It works well, and there's no need to sync with Windows. So I went over, check it out. It's a Python utility to securely synchronize your Fitbit device with the Fitbit web service. Oh. It works with the Bluetooth-based trackers, Fitbit One, Fitbit Zip, Fitbit Flex, and Fitbit Force.
Oh, wow.
Ultra Tracker is not supported at this time.
It's got its own little library, at least one they suggest.
It also saves all of the data locally if you'd like it too, which is actually nicer than the commercial version.
I kind of like that. Well, that's cool because that includes the Linux guys.
Yeah, so we'll have Miles' email linked in the show notes where that link is contained. If you're a Fitbit user and want to rock your Fitbit under Linux.
Nice.
You know, it also works if you have a smartphone with Bluetooth LE.
Oh, yeah?
Or a Hackintosh sitting around.
Or a Hackintosh.
All right, Matt. Well, what have you been up to this last week? Anything you want people to go check out?
Always, you can find me datamation.com. Scroll down to open source. I got an article in there on how to avoid breaking Ubuntu. This is targeting newer users, but also some intermediate folks as well.
Probably a good idea.
Yes.
Don't want to break it.
Do not want to break it.
All right. So speaking of things that are breaking. So we have this Linux Action Show after party for Linux Fest Northwest. If you're going to make it to Linux Fest Northwest, we're going to be there broadcasting from the exhibit room. And then after Saturday in the evening, we're going to have an after party. We're going to rent a party bus, and we're going to drive people down to the new studio. However, we are currently at 43 people committed to go.
Oh my God! This is a condo, right?
Yeah,
not a building.
It's a townhouse. Yeah, it's a townhouse.
Okay, but still,
we might be shutting it down in the next day or two. So by Monday or Tuesday. Yeah,
I don't even know if I'd wait that long. Honestly.
Yeah, I know, and I think we're going to have to take shifts. I think we're going to have to take shifts.
Probably have to get a bouncer.
I want a lot of people.
Get a doorman, right?
I want a lot of people, but at the same time, like we can't fit that many people.
No.
And you can, if you want to sign up, I'll give you like the rest of the afternoon. LinuxAfterparty.com.
Like a concierge. Oh yeah, no, I like that. If you get like a concierge or a doorman to kind of help basically help
the flow.
Yeah, because
and we'll have a little backyard. We could have some overflow with a barbecue going.
Right. That would be the way to do it. Because otherwise, if we're trying to manage that ourselves, then we're not networking and talking.
Right.
To folks.
Exactly. Yeah. We will need some bouncers. Yes. And then the other thing I was thinking is maybe doing like, and Ange doesn't like this idea because we basically have to double up on the bus rental, but having shifts. So we'll bring people down, the first crew hangs out, and then we send them back up. Maybe then they can hit the Linux Fest Northwest after party because that goes for a few hours.
You know, an alternative to that would be more Ange friendly. Would be to actually have a set number of tickets for the bus that we are handing out, and it's first come first serve. I mean, we still would have to. See, I'm thinking with so many people, we might have to take two trips. Like one group comes down for a little while, and then we send them back. Well, then the rest of them got a carpool. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out.
I don't know what the total bus costs yet. But it's a party bus. It's going to be awesome.
Right. They can ride on the roof.
Like maybe I'll just hang out on the party bus. If I'm going to rent it, maybe I'll just be Chris on the bus drinking again.
Lampshade on his head, boxer shorts, streaking back and forth. Could happen.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll be at the end of April at Linux Fest Northwest. And we're going to have a good crowd there this year.
Definitely.
And we'd love to have you visit us. Bring your challenge coins if you get one. If teespring.com/last300, last chance to get a hoodie with a coin or a t-shirt with a coin. And then go to linuxafterparty.com if you can make it. And also, if you can't make it, go ahead and take yourself out of the group. But don't worry about it. I want to see you guys. We want to. And if worst case scenario, we could always rent a hall.
Right?
We could. I mean, we could rent a hall and just do it there.
Oh, I thought you meant like a U-Haul.
No.
You were like drive a bunch of folks in the back of it.
No, I mean, if we got if we had a ton of people, we could just
we'd make it work.
There's some restaurants nearby the studio we could get or anything like that. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
and we'll have some muscle.
That's right.
Q5 Sis is going to be there crashing on the couch, and he'll bring his muscles.
Yes, and a couch.
Well, yeah, he might have to bring a couch too. Depends on the timing. Well, we'd love to have you join us live. We do these on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 6 p.m. UTC, 1 p.m. Eastern. And you can also go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get it in your local time zone. And don't forget to join us on Tuesday for Linux Unplugged. We'll have one of the developers on from the Tox project. So if you have any questions about Tox, you can shoot it at him, and we'll be chatting about
Tox.
Talk about Tox, yeah. And you can also email the show. Go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com, click the contact link, and choose Linux Action Show from the drop-down. And then the robots that sit behind that contact form will send it off to the correct location, which will then pop up a KMail notification here on my desktop.
Good stuff. Makes sense.
I'll also give a good plug for the Linux Action Show Reddit, linuxactionshow.reddit.com, where you can help vote things up or down for this show, and also engage in community discussions there, and all of that stuff sort of molds the direction of our show. Don't forget to join us next week for a review of the Chromebook C720, and we'll see you, on Tuesday for Linux Unplugged, which I already mentioned.
Yes.
We're all set then.
And you can always find us, as he mentioned in the subreddit. We frequent that enough to where it is definitely worth checking out.
Or hit us up on Twitter. I'm twitter.com/ChrisLAS.
And I'm best on Google+. I'm on Twitter, and I'll respond when I see it. Usually it's a few days later.
We should update that lower third.
Yeah. I mean, I do check it. If you at me, I'll see it. So we're good.
See that right there? That should say plus. Just imagine that at symbol is a plus. Plus Matt Hardy, right? There you go.
But I'll see it. But I better dialogue on Google+.
I've been switching back over to Twitter. I don't know.
I just Twitter.
Notifications.
It's just I can't handle the shortness of it. It's just annoying.
That's why. Shortness. That's what she said. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week.
Shorties.
What's great about this alpha, you just get right into the action. Got him. Okay, well, coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. Breaking news right now, Matt. Angela is at the new studio, and the reports are it is in good condition, which is great because that means more funding can go towards wiring and electrical. So.
And just less hassle in general.
Oh, man, I'm probably going to run over there tomorrow afternoon and take a look since she's there already.
Take a peek.
I'm really excited. I'm glad it's in good condition because, we've had renters in there for years, so it could have been pretty beat up.
It really could have been.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Epic mustache equals the new hipster beard. Maybe. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
That is.
There's the gooey.
There it is.
That's the gooey right there, Matt.
Gooey.
There's the gooey.
So gooey.
Let's add. Now I'm going to go in here. I'm going to add his ID. Okay. And boom. I don't know what's happening.
There's glowing happening up on another window there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's another alert box.
We got another ID. Fake has put his ID in.
That's chat.
Craig has put his in. Holy smokes. It's happening. All right, so let's go back over here.
Bam!
I'm going to add another one.
Kadinga.
Please enter a valid friend.
Oh, there was a space in front, I think.
Okay.
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Bam!
All right, now let's go back and get Craig. It takes a while. I guess it might because it has to do that discovery, huh?
Yeah, it's like BitTorrent. I suppose that makes sense.
Yeah, it's got to go out and talks to the network. And I will add Kadinga, boomsies. Okay, Z's. All right, boom, there we go. I've just added people to Tox. That's the QT version. Mm-hmm. I haven't honestly decided yet if I'm going back to GNOME after this. Because I really just don't really have a problem with KDE either. And I kind of hurt
to keep it on hand.
But I like the heads-up dashboard.
You do.
Makes it feel like I got like a supercomputer.
That's true. You got like a kind of a workstation-y / cockpit kind of thing going on.
So, by the way, there is like a YouTube fast mode. Did you know this?
No. It speed everything up, or is it loads quicker?
It's still Flash, but it's like way less features, like no comments. YouTube fast mode. See if I can find it for you guys. Feather, that's what they call it, the Feather beta. So here's a link to it in the chat room. I use this a lot on...
That'd be nice for low like if you have a machine you want to load it, there's a lot of extra crap.
So Feather, it's an opt-in beta. The project is intended to serve YouTube video pages with the lowest latency possible. It achieves it by severely limiting the features available to the viewer, making use of web technologies and reducing the total amount of bytes downloaded by the browser. So you don't get ads, you don't get the comments, you don't get a lot of the sidebar crap, and so that's all stuff you don't have to wait to load. So it's just the Flash player, just the video description, and then like some static suggestions.
Really cool. Actually, I might check that out.
All right, well, coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show.